Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
Whoa! No, leave it. The listeners will love it. After an accidental hiatus of this brings it to my mind.
Rachel literally grabbed it away I
fought this recording into the light. So I have to say that.
Sorry, guys.
One of my weaknesses as a human is when people have a milk bubble. And the thing about the milk bubble in the throat.
That was not a milk bubble.
No, but it reminded me of it. That was just, I'm But when people have a milk bubble, they often do not notice.
No.
Like somehow it alters their voice to be.
They talk through
and they just keep pushing through, thinking no one will know. And I crumble in such situations. I cannot withhold my joy over that.
It taps into the same vein as enjoying treadmill fails.
Well, the blooper video thing. See, for me, the real joy of a blooper, like what makes a blooper really brilliant, it's not the bloopers where it's not the ones where someone may have died.
No,
I don't like those.
I don't like those either.
Those are not pleasant to look at.
No.
What kills me are the ones where someone is taking themselves super seriously. And as taking themselves really super seriously fail.
Word.
Which is why the milk bubble is so funny to me, because they usually just go on talking casually. As though nothing were amiss. And it's a real sweet spot for me.
Oh, man.
So we accidentally quit on you last week.
Yeah, we kind of just fired away
But we quit enough that I had to ask if we did.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, did we
I think what happened... No, you know what happened? I think we recorded one kind of late the week before, and it didn't get posted till Monday.
So it felt like we just did it. So it sort of felt
like something had happened. Anyway.
Our bad.
But I have to tell everyone, I have to tell you this, because Rachel's heard it, I think, before, but...
It's still good. You should tell it.
There were some podcast listeners in the room when this happened.
So they expect to hear of it on the podcast.
And I feel like if I wasn't to acknowledge it, then I might be like what you just described, which is a person who had a fail who then tried to ride it out as if they hadn't.
What? I did not do this.
This is what happened. It was a few weeks ago at Logos teacher training. So Logos school is the classical school where our kids all go, and I teach and everything, and they do a teacher training conference in the summer where teachers from classical schools all over come, and there's workshops and things. Well, they asked me to speak, but this was not just one of the workshops, it was to the group. It was the whole group. So it was probably, I don't know, like 150 people, and I was speaking first thing in the morning, so it was like 8:30 or whatever. And so I show up, and this session was being held in the Logos gym. So all of the chairs are set up on the gym floor, but you're picturing like a basketball court, and then the people sitting in folding chairs on the floor. Rachel's texting.
So that's good.
She's like, don't mind me, I'm texting.
I'm listening.
So when I arrive, what turns out to have happened is that two birds have gotten into the gym the night before.
Which is just so good.
Yeah. Two birds, and they had attempted to get them out by various means, but it's a gym. It's not like you can shoo them out. There's all kinds of rafters catch them in there. It's high. And
how do they get them out
so
in the
they had gone early, and they had opened all the doors and turned all the lights off inside to try to make the birds fly towards the light, but they didn't.
Be not moths.
Yeah. So I get up to speak, and there had already been sort of this acknowledgement of like, everyone, there's a couple of birds still, like from the day before.
Sorry about the birds.
Leftover birds. We couldn't get them out. So I get up to talk, and I'd kind of forgotten about the birds because I'm just doing my thing. Well, okay. The thing is, think of yourself, though, as an audience member trying to concentrate on a talk when there are birds flying around.
There's just so much fodder for incident.
Because it's not like everyone's not panicking anytime they fly somewhere, because who knows what will go wrong. And so anyway, I'd kind of forgotten about it, but then you can see the audience kind of lose track.
Yeah,
Where they all
yeah.
sort of swivel around to
Yeah.
find out where the bird is or whatever. And I think the birds had kind of gone into remission for a bit. And then suddenly one of them flew up and landed directly above me on the rafter, up by the ceiling. Now, the thing is, I didn't see it fly up there, but of course the whole audience does.
Yes, and then it's just like a premonition.
And then you have a bird roosting over the
Yeah,
top of your
yeah.
speaker. So you know that's a breathless kind of situation. Well, the first inkling I get of this is that giant dust bunnies begin falling all around me. Like big dust bunnies off the top of these steel beams up at the roof of the gym. It's not like normal cleaning gets it, you know, because so there are these
You have
big,
to have a bird up there to do it.
it was doing what, like some kind of soft shoe routine on the beam. And so it's like kicking off a shower, but not just kind of anywhere up towards the front, but around me. I feel like I'm standing in a beam of dust bunnies. And so you can't just keep talking with that when you know they might be landing on your head or anywhere. And so I kind of, acknowledged it like, whoa, and then everyone is distracted, of course. And I kind of try to get going again once or twice, but then every time I would start, then here come the dust bunnies again, raining upon me. And so it was just kind of this weird moment of like challenges to public speaking. And then Dr. Stevenson kind of shouts out to me, like, from the side, like, don't worry, like, he's above you, it's just dust. Well, as he says, it's just dust. Down comes a big dead moth, a big one, and splats on the podium right in front of me, belly up. Just... like dead middle.
And you're like, but what does it mean?
It just drops from heaven, and I am confronted with a dead moth that I then have to just look at for the rest of my time.
I feel like from others I heard that you may have sort of screamed at that point.
I don't know if I did, but I don't like moths. But when they're dead, I'm less worried by a moth.
Oh my word, that's so
but
funny.
of all the things, and I was like, what is happening? It's like a
you're
bird
like, what does
omen.
it mean? I don't know what it means.
The ancients believed in
it's like,
bird
I'm
omens.
listening, but what is it?
But what's happening? Like,
One
I
time-
felt like I was caught in a shower of manna, but it was just falling from heaven.
One time as a kid, well, I don't know how old I was, but I just remember being at the First Presbyterian Church for a wedding, and it has a very high ceiling.
Yeah.
And with the beams up there. And sitting in front of me was a bald man.
Okay.
And from way up high, like no idea how it could, because it was a very long ways, a spider drops all the way and then stops like 6 inches above this bald head. And it's just sort of swinging in the breeze above his head. And it was so weirdly tense because you're not sure what your Christian duty is there. Like, are you supposed to leap up in the middle of the wedding and smack a spider in front of someone? Or are you supposed to wait till it shows more intentionality? Like, is it going to go the whole way and then sweep it away
Do you, like, grab your bulletin and swipe it off his head?
What is the duty of a... Yeah, and as I recall, it didn't ever actually drop all the way. And I think it might have drifted with some breezy movements so that we maybe grabbed the string of it, and put it on the floor and stepped on it. But it was very tense to sit there watching it just sort of right above a bald head.
Yeah. Or right above your speaker.
You're like, something is happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to...
Yeah, it's some kind of like sign from above.
Wasn't it Uncle Bob that one time at the lake when the bats were flying all around us? And do you remember this? Didn't he? Or maybe he just told this story that he was like comforting Aunt Jill that the bats have their little sonar thing going, so they never run into people.
Yeah,
and then
they never
didn't one
run
get
into-
into her hair or something right at
Flapped
that moment?
around. Flapped in her hair.
Like right at that moment as he's explaining how they never have this kind of trouble.
It's like you have
Don't worry.
the drunk driving
It
bat.
was like, well, that bat wasn't listening to his sonar. And you never know when they might not listen.
I know. Well, this bird, I felt, was trying to tell me something, but I'm not
I should
sure.
say, just since I mentioned Uncle Bob, I feel like we should mention one of our theories is that everyone in our age group of people has an Uncle Bob.
I don't think it matters what age group. I think everybody
Just in the
has an
universe,
Uncle Bob.
everyone
Yeah.
has an Uncle Bob. Bob is the universal uncle. And I know this because we have an Uncle Bob that every time
Well-
we would mention Uncle Bob, people would say, I too have an Uncle
Yeah,
Bob.
but there's even a saying, well, Bob's your uncle. I mean,
I forgot about that. I just think that there's
It's like,
most of the world.
Bob is indeed my
the one
uncle.
exception is if Uncle Bob is your own father. If you're, but then
but you know what
but
Uncle
he's
Bob.
everyone else's Uncle
Yeah.
Bob. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a theory.
Anyway, so we should talk about something else. Somebody asked us, though, about Sabbath dinner.
Oh yeah.
Like, what do we do at Sabbath dinner? Like, let's get some details out. You, go. Talk.
Right now we're in a Sabbath dinner interim phase. So there's like different, like it's hard to say what we do exactly.
Oh, we've
because-
been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, I know, but like it alternates summer and winter, kind of different tones a little
Yeah,
bit.
totally.
And things kind of, move around. But the whole family gets together on Saturday night, and we do this as like a kickoff. What was there a more specific element to this question? Or I feel like we've talked about this before. Anyways, we kick off the Lord's Day by celebrating in advance of it. The reason we do it on Saturday is probably origin because Dad is a pastor, so Sunday is a working day for him,
Yeah.
and that it is nicer to have after church be nothing in particular.
Yeah,
like
instead
he
of
goes
having company right
right,
then.
especially times if he goes and preaches. If he preaches 2 sermons or if there's 2 services or whatever, then after that is not the time that you want to also entertain everyone. So the night before, my parents would invite us all to Sabbath. And there are a lot of principles, I think, that made Sabbath what it is. The biggest one is it's a get to, not a got to.
For sure.
That we were invited to come all the time. We were not obligated to come. And
No.
sometimes people would think, like if we didn't want to, if for some reason we were busy or we didn't do, it's not like anybody's going to be mad at us or there's going to be a problem.
Can I just insert right there? Like, keep your bookmarks, guys, in Sabbath dinner, but I think that this is an important thing to throw out. Also, I've talked to people before who are just cresting into the phase of like their kids are getting married and now there's other family,
There's
the other
in-law,
side of the
yeah.
family. And so then there's the like, what do we do about holidays? What do we do about Christmas or whatever? And I have heard people say things like, well, we just sat our kids down and said, here is what you are going to be expected to
this
do.
is what you owe us.
We expect at least every other year, or we expect at least 2 days every Christmas, or here's
it's
what
so
we're
bad.
wanting from you.
So
Now,
bad.
And the thing about that is, it is a very practical problem. Like, how do you fit it all in? But one of the things that I loved about how Mom and Dad did it was they never did that. They were always like, you guys just tell us what you're wanting to do.
Actually, even 20
We
years
don't
into
wanna
it, they're
encroach.
still doing that.
Yeah.
They're still like, if you just want to do your own thing, Christmas
Just
morning,
let
that's
us
fine.
know.
Just let us know.
Let us know. And it was like, you're welcome to come here, but we don't want to be intruding on you. And the thing is when you do it that way, everybody wants to be there.
because
Like,
there's
everybody
no-
wants to come because who wants an invitation that is full of pressure-y manipulation or something?
like, why don't you come to our house? And also, you'll never be able to leave without feeling guilty. Because if you come and then they're like, well, that wasn't long enough, or this wasn't like
Or you never come see us enough.
or you didn't mean it when you came this time, you just came because you had to, or you didn't, and there's so many ways that people do this, and I think that it is just such a Christian life principle that, like, when you want to have great family time, and I mean when your kids are little, like when they're at the dinner table needs to be a wonderful place to be. Not that you're going around beating everyone into the dinner table to sit down and scowl at them and say, I did all this work and you never even make it nice.
It's
you
like,
never even want to be here.
In general, outside your own family, if you want people to want to come to your parties, you're going to have to throw fun parties.
Yeah.
And
if they have an option of not coming to your parties, don't make it that your kids would like to not have to.
Yeah.
Where they'd be like, I prefer to not have to attend this.
And the thing is, we know what that looks like when you're actually throwing a party. You want to have your guests want to come. Well, that's because
your guests are not obligated.
Yeah. And you want them to want to come, and you want them to have a good time.
Wasn't it a Marnie? The great famous Marnie letter of Thanksgiving?
The one that makes us happy every year.
The one that's so good.
Yeah, but the thing is like, we know this when it comes to throwing a party, so do it for your people, the people you actually love, the ones that, like, when you do it for your office coworkers, but you wouldn't dream of showing that consideration to your own children or siblings or whatever it is. Right. Something's gone amiss.
Well, and it is that whole thing about better is a dinner of herbs where love is, and love is not putting yourself first, which means that when you are doing something for other people, you were genuinely asking the Lord to bless them in it and not you. Like, I'm not saying it's bad to ask the Lord to bless you in it. I'm just saying the whole point is not to fill up your tank with needing to see people, but it is to equip others. And I would say that what Mom and Dad did for us and what we are in turn trying to be ready to do for our children. Like, we're trying to gear up to be that way for them when they are starting their own families, is that what they did was they enabled us. It was a place that equipped us better in the raising of our own children, because it was like something that we could do, that we could bless our children with, that we enjoyed ourselves, that was like, it was a big help when you're like blindingly weird with little children. It was not like I was throwing nice dinners at home with, like, it was not like we were being amazing at home.
The thing is, like, I've seen this in families with little kids and in families with grown kids, where there's this sort of like, no, you will attend family time.
This is the night when we watch a movie together. If you don't want to do that, you hate us. Like, you just never escalate the stakes. Like, at any little offering does not mean everything. Like, don't be like, I don't know. I just think that the reality is it's one of those Christian paradoxes of, like,
be open-handed.
First will be last will be first. Like don't be grabby, and then your hands will always be full. Like don't be, strangling the life out of your events by thinking they're so important. Like, just be fun. Like,
be fun. And be open-handed.
And I can remember things back when there are moments that I can remember when so many of the kids that are now all the, like, college and teens were all little. And it was not easy.
No.
And everyone was all hands on deck. But one time that I remember, this would be before there were even that many, because it was Jemima. But, like, I can remember Mom with her table all set beautifully, and then there were, like, one or two high chairs. I don't know which.
Yeah. A fleet.
No, but it was before. It was Gemma, so it would have been before. It was just your kids.
Oh.
But I remember Mom putting her on the table with the sugar bowl. Like, where she was, like, licking her fingers and sticking them in the sugar bowl and licking it off. And, like, and that I can say we didn't do by the time it was my kids. That sort of thing was not going hog wild, because think of it.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it. Gosh. Gather around, all of you children. But my point is, she was not up. It was a beautiful table and a beautiful meal, but it was welcoming the actual people who were there.
When the kids were little, like, now it's such a funny, there's sort of like the bigger group table, and then there's still a little kids
I know,
table.
it's killing me, the seating chart.
Yeah, but when it was a lot of little kids, Mom would always sprinkle candy down the middle of the table. Oh, yeah,
like in the fall and stuff, she would set the table and then, like, have a table runner and then sprinkle little treats all down the table. Yeah. Like the idea of it being a real delight for the kids to be there, to show up and be like, and they love those, knowing that they have been thought of.
Yeah.
That they have been planned for and thought of.
Exactly.
And really
and if you're doing that sort of fun thing, then of course everybody wants to come.
Yeah.
But if you are giving everybody a flow chart of when they're required to show up.
Well, or like fussing at people for being late, or being
Fussing at people
annoyed
for
at
not
people.
coming last week.
Yeah, just kind of being those
keeping
are the ways
track.
that you kill it.
Keeping track of like, well, you did Christmas with them last year.
Or I would
Do you
say
not love us
evenly
anymore?
trying to evenly divide up all of the work. That's like a thing that people do that can't be
That's
done.
a real death knell.
It is. Once you
For
start
a
telling
thing.
people, this is why I just believe it's more profitable to do, if you think it matters that you do something, just do the work yourself and
Yep.
invite people and give it as a gift instead of like, we're all going to do this
Yeah.
because I want us to.
Yeah.
I'm going to assign you a bunch of things. Like, try to just give it as a gift and see how God uses that, because
Exactly.
he does use it. That's the thing, is he does great things with that. So we have right now, Mom and Dad moved out of their house, which was the house that, I don't want to say it fit Sabbath, but Sabbath happened here. We
Yeah.
made it. It's not like it's a huge
kind of
house
like
for
that-
Sabbath, but
that
we know how
little-
to do it here.
The little storybook of the mitten.
Yeah, we all fit in. We do
Yeah.
it. We keep coming into the mitten. It's so funny because we're all like, of course it wasn't too squishy. But anyways, Mom, they moved in to take care of Grandpa. So Luke and I are living at their house with our kids while we are building our house. So we are carrying the Sabbath torch here. So there's still a place. There's still a lot of the, the tables in the garage. And like there's a lot of the equipment.
Right.
Is all here. So now we have been doing it since
Beginning of summer.
since the beginning of summer. Although there was a lot of intermissions there
Yeah.
while people were overseas or we were in Chicago. But practically speaking, if I was starting my own, like if you didn't have family, if it was just you and your kids trying to start your own, I would start it by just trying to make it the most fun meal of the week.
Yeah.
Like whether you let your kids try to help make appetizers or help like do something that they will remember as exciting and fun and and whatever is age appropriate, like putting the candy on the table or having their favorite dessert or doing things that is just clearly expressions of love of the people who are there and in the context of celebrating the Lord's Day, like in the context of
And not turning it into a burden for them, but rather a gift that you're giving them.
Right. So we've gone through a lot of different eras, but Dad typically now there's like a catechism kind of questions at the beginning and a toast. So the questions at the beginning, he asks the kids a lot of different questions, and probably the centerpiece of those is the why is it the Lord's Day? Because Jesus rose.
What kind of a day is it?
What kind of a day is it? It's a sweet day. What is the...
what did Jesus kill on this day? The dragon.
And then the dragon in our hearts.
What else did Jesus kill?
Yeah,
the dragon in our hearts.
So the kids have a... and then at the end he says, what's the point of the whole Bible? And the kids all yell, kill the dragon, get the girl. There's a toast about...
First, it's a toast of
happy are the people whose God is the Lord.
This is the day the Lord has made, and we all say we will rejoice and be glad in it, and then we all
do it before, And
but
then
we always give the kids a little
finish
bit of wine, and they toast as well.
The kids, by a little bit, you mean like they have the tiny little solo cups in the summer, or tiny little it's like
Mom
a sip.
has like little wine glasses, little tiny short ones, like kind of cordial glasses.
Yeah,
and we give the kids a little bit of wine, and they would toast and have a little sip of the wine,
and then we do a so that's the, and then Dad reads the Psalms, happy are the people whose God is the Lord, may our sons. But he fills in, the kids fill in the blanks, so he stops at different times and they fill it in. May our sons flourish like saplings grown up in their youth, and may our daughters be as columns sculpted in the palace style. Psalm 144, verse 12. Becca and I don't do that at Sabbath, so we were just impressing ourselves that we did know it. We did know. And then he does the other one, about a blessing for my wife. May our house always have 7 pillars, and may she always mix her wine with wisdom. So that's sort of the regular liturgy, and then we just have the food. So we do that in all the ways. Things that I think are really cool that happen is that oftentimes it's the dads serving the kids. The dads do, like, oftentimes.
Here's the thing. I think it's important. Gosh, I've got like a whole nesting set of things I want to say here. It's important to note that we are talking to women, so we're not going to spend our days saying, here's how your husband ought to act.
You know what your men ought to do?
Here's what your husband ought to be doing. What are you supposed to do with that? I think that that's kind of an important piece, and I do think it factored into that dust up we were talking about a few weeks ago, where everybody was creaming that woman based on inferences of things she didn't say about men.
Right.
And so we don't want to do that. Like, we're talking to women, let's focus on what we can do.
We're not going to focus on how men should be better.
Right.
We're not,
because what's the point of that?
We're not teaching men.
No, they should be better, but we'll just leave that one alone for now. However, this is a thing that I think is really marked here, and I've been lots of other places where it isn't this way at all. And I do think it actually is a really big
elements.
Piece.
Yes.
So the wives, like when any of us do events, like if it's Sabbath dinner, it used to be mostly mom or you, or we would all contribute things. Mm-hmm. And we would come with a salad or come with dessert or whatever it was. Like, we would do that. And I would say that's predominantly, yes, the wives are doing the cooking. That's just how it usually shakes out. The guys would grill, or sometimes the husband will jump in and help on things, whatever. Yeah. But it's the wives doing the cooking. But when it comes time, when we had this house full of tiny kids, and you're basically having to chop up 2 of the roasts into tiny bite-sized pieces.
We would actually do a whole serving bowl of bite-sized meat. Cutting meat, so that you don't have to go cut.
So then you just go around and put it
on
your
serve
plate.
The little eaters.
There were a lot of little kids, but it was so striking that I've been other places where the fathers, husbands, they all go sit in the other room, kind of basically.
And the women are like frantic.
The women are running around, feeding the kids, cutting the food, blah, blah, blah. The men get their food, they go sit down. The wives are the last ones to eat because they're the ones running around taking care of everything. And that is basically the opposite of how it works at Sabbath dinner. So, I mean, women are still running around doing it. I would say that
typically, yes, I agree.
But lots of times mom would end up, she's running around and she's taking care of stuff.
Yeah, but when we do it here, Luke is not hardly ever. Like, he's usually the whole time I have stuff to do,
but
he's
I just
doing
remember
it too.
It would be, and it is different, honestly, it's different now. The demographic is different. But when it was little kids, it was the dads who were in there.
It still is the dads who usually serve the little kid table.
The dads are getting the kids there. Yeah. The dads are, and then the dads go through the line last. If there's a line, it's like...
Oh, yeah, they usually have the women go through.
The women go through first, and then the men go through. And so it really is
Although now we usually put the teenagers last, because... you don't want to send the locusts through the buffet first.
No, so that does matter, but I just think that it's very marked that it's not, here, women, we expect you to serve our every need and do all the work, and we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about theology.
It's a small example of when women are doing things to help their husbands. Their husbands are not beneath the work of it. It's the work of building a family culture is our work. Is helping our husbands lead their family. Yeah. It's not like we're doing the work so they don't have to do anything. It's more like we're equipping them to better serve and lead.
And I will say that just happened organically. Again, there's no, like, everyone, we expect this of the men. Women.
No, it just happened.
It just happened.
But I have to say, one of the things that I do really love about our church, that I agree is different. When you go other places, you're like, that is different.
It's a culturally noticeable thing.
The children are in our church. The kids, there's not nurseries. So there are places you can go to have the sermon piped in, but there's not like, there's a nursing room. But beyond that, if you look in the back of church on one of those days that whatever's happening, it made the children busy. Yeah. There are times when
the moon is on
the moon, something's happening. Everyone's bad at church. Like all the babies are restless for some reason. On those days, I love it when you look in the back and there's like 10 men with infants in the back standing. And sometimes, and it's not like there's anything against a mother standing in the back with the baby. And I've done it many times, and there's, like that's a thing. But at the same time, it's very marked that the men are involved in that work. Yeah. So
if you're just sitting at the back of church, it is, and you're just watching the sort of active parenting that's
more
happening.
Dads taking kids
involved fathers is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that there's this, we're not feminists by any stretch, but
no.
On the conservative side, there can be a lot of I'm the,
Rooster.
whatever. The king. I'm the fat king that sits here with my feet up.
I sit here.
And I expect to have the women do all of it and raise the children.
I am a king, but I married a charwoman.
Exactly.
If I'm going to be the king, wouldn't that make your wife the queen? Which would mean you would share obligations in a different way.
Yeah. However, the thing about this is that it does not work if the women say, here's what you need to do.
No, it won't.
It won't work.
So we're not saying this as an admonition to you women to tell your husbands what to do, but just so that you understand clearly the culture we're talking about, how it happens in this culture.
Right.
And if that's not the way that your culture is, find a way that will be a blessing to all of you and your children. You can't just imitate what mom and dad have done. No. Exactly, but you can do things that will bless your whole family and try to actively do that.
Like, we do a thing with just our family on Sundays that we sometimes invite guests to, but other times it's just us. And that's all of us in the kitchen cooking all together, guys and girls. We're all just
We just did that yesterday, and it was super fun.
Yeah.
And then we also took our whole family to the park and played Ultimate as a family, which is really funny to me that our kids are big enough that we can staff 2 teams of Ultimate.
That's pretty good.
I know. I was like, what happened here?
Yeah, so we just do things of like trying out weird, crazy recipes, and we do, see if we can tell the difference between wines, and it's just fun. Like, we just kind of make it fun and low key, and but it is, again, it's not like we believe in gender roles. Yeah. Like, we really do. But we also
maybe not wooden gender roles in a way that would be
like, we often, like, we've got everybody in the kitchen
all cooking. I would say, and this might be putting too, I would say we believe strongly in what Scripture teaches about gender roles. We affirm it all, and we're happy with it. But we also really like our husbands. So we also, there's an advantage of the fact that we are also having a happy marriage.
Yeah.
And I think that our belief about the gender roles plays into that heavily.
Big time.
But it is also that personality-wise, we really enjoy each other, and that is a real advantage.
If you think about it, marriage is a dance. You're learning the steps, and if you insist on doing the man steps, you're going to be stepping on each other's feet all the time, and it is not going to be fun. Mm-hmm. And if he is insisting on he has to do half the women's steps and half the men's steps, again, you're just going to be tripping and bumping into each other. But if both of you learn your steps, you can dance quite well together.
What's more than that,
and
you can talk about something else.
Yeah.
You actually can spend your time while dancing well,
instead of
enjoying other topics.
Instead of barking at each other about who was supposed to do that step.
No, and I think that one time, many years ago, I had a friend whose dad did wedding videos. And one time he showed us a train wreck of a wedding that he had been the videographer for. And it was an unbelievable, painful time. Real bad. But one of the things that was, so the setting is one of these times where the bride clearly thinks this is her famous day. This is her time.
This is where she gets an Oscar.
This was a bridezilla, gone wild. So it was like out of the zoo bridezilla, I think. But they were real. But the groom was not innocent. So as we went to watch the reception, there are special dance. So it's kind of like, looks like it's just in a community hall somewhere. It's like not. Yeah. And the audience is just bored to tears and like thin. It's like a thin audience. And you wonder why after this. But they, the spotlight on the dance floor lights up, and the Celine Dion, Titanic, right? Wasn't that from Titanic?
I think so, yeah.
Near Far, wherever you are. That one begins.
My heart will go on and on. Yeah. I've always minded that line. It's such a bad poetic fail.
Almost as bad as the one that says, your love is better than ice cream. You're like, well, you don't say. Like, I mean, really, hold back a little bit. That's just so generous.
I like you better than racquetball.
I mean, even Rice Krispies are not as good as you. So, anyways, the spotlight's on, the near far begins, and I think that the groom comes out from one side of the dance floor, striding, and then, but with
like
one, what do you
with
call
that
it?
word.
With one hand up over your eyes, shading your eyes,
like Lewis and Clark?
pretending to be, or like Stout Cortez.
Yeah,
gazing into the distance, looking for his near far bride, wherever she may be. And then the music transitions and she comes out of the corner towards him, striding towards him with lots of arm movements, and it's so embarrassing. Like you've never laid eyes on anything that embarrassed you as badly as that. But the thing in the videographers, this special director's edition, is that they were both wearing mics.
Yeah.
So in the devious, dark ways, you're watching the video, but you can hear their conversation.
Okay.
So what are they doing but bickering wildly while doing this dance to Celine Dion? And she's like, he's like telling her,
wait, didn't they?
No, didn't happen yet. So
okay.
they're like going along, and he's like, smile, and she's going, and wait a minute. And you're like, and then he's like, do the turn. She's like, I don't want to do the turn. You do the turn. And the whole time they're like clenching their teeth, so you can't tell, but they are out of fellowship in the worst ways. And he wants to do a turn that she doesn't want to do, and then all of a sudden they drop each other's hands, and he goes, what is this? And they go and freak out at the DJ because they had a choreographed dance and the DJ had put on the wrong mix of the song.
Yep.
So now the DJ doesn't have it, and they're like cussing the DJ out. I mean, it's so bad. and then there's like some kind of a hiatus while he has to go get the right mix of it. And then when he comes back, they turn it on and they start from the beginning again, where the spotlight, the groom comes out from, and they're even more cranked off on this edition, and you're like, this is so embarrassing. But my point is, there is a way of having all the steps right and the attitude so wrong. That, like, not that I want to say that the dance at its best is to Celine Dion, because I like to think it's something more classic than that. But my point is, you can be just cranked off and doing your part and blaming the other person the whole time that you're doing your part and being like, you're the worst as you do it. But,
it does not guarantee that you'll be in fellowship, but it certainly,
but it helps you to not have
things out.
Yes, and it makes you free. I've thought this before. This is a hard concept to, if you are the kind of wife, it's a hard one to communicate. But if you're the kind of wife who always has to have an incident, like there must be a crisis, there must be a day that is bad beyond belief, because in some way, that's how you're expecting to get your husband's sympathy or love or something. Like there's always going to be something. This is my way of getting it. Imagine a world where you did it. Like, just imagine, what would it be like if your husband came home and was like, how are you doing? And you're like, really good, but how was your day? Like I'm not, like, the details of the struggles of the laundry and whatever else are not actually important, because I can actually deal with those. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can actually, I know the answers. Yeah. I am equipped to be godly in this time, so I don't need to pour it all out on you to make you feel bad, to make you whatever. The reason I say this is that you're actually free then to enjoy other topics.
Each other.
Have you considered, what if you could manage your own mischief to such a point that you could talk about the other things that mattered, like your vision for what you should be doing, or what is your goal as a family.
The thing that I think is just a human trait, probably particularly a feminine human trait, is, the fishing for compliments in strange, underhanded, but not so subtle ways.
The worst woman.
Yeah. Basically, like, I'm so fat so that you can get all your friends to say, no, you're beautiful. You look great.
Oh, my word.
It's that thing.
That is one of my least favorites.
I do think that there are ways where, like, you want his attention. What is the thing that comes most easily to you is to manufacture or blow something out of proportion so that he will have to pay attention to you and cheer you up.
And you escalate it if he doesn't pay attention. That adds to the frosting layers. Because if he doesn't immediately jump to as though it was a wildfire threatening your own home, then you're like, well, I'll show him. He neglected to treat this as though it was the emergency.
I will light a wildfire now.
I thought I had a hair thing, and I'm looking at all my pockets.
Oh, do you hear a large rumpling in the distance, guys?
Sorry about it. I guess I didn't pack a hair thing. It's all right.
Your hair's cute, by the way.
Well, thanks.
That was your underhanded way of getting me to say.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Be like, I'm going to bring this up now.
But it is true that I do think that there are, sometimes I think most of the time when you do this, you're not really conscious that that's what you're doing. It's not like you sit there at 3 p.m. and you think, how can I get my husband to notice?
Later I'll make a point.
I think what I'll do is I'll become really emotionally fraught.
Yeah. Because that's a party.
But
all of us enjoy it so much when I do that.
I think that we do it without consciously acknowledging that that's what we're doing, and yet that's still what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And so it is worth maybe an active prevention.
Oh, my word. Yeah, because it's just general awareness. And as I'm always the one who... I always recommend burning your own bridges first. Be brutally honest about your own temptations, because if you notice that you are like, oh yeah, I do that, tell on yourself.
Oh, but I have another thing.
It's really difficult. But when you tell on yourself and you burn your own bridge in advance, like where you're like, sometimes I use this particular complaint as a way of, like, and when you do that, you find you have cut yourself off from a plausible story later.
Yeah. But one other thing I think is that, like, let's say that somebody feels convicted about this and was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make my husband's favorite dinner. I'm going to have the house so fun for him to come home to. I'm going to have been a really great day. And I'm just going to be cheerful. I tell you what the next
I know exactly what will happen.
Is that 9:30 that night, you'll have a giant meltdown and say, and I did all of this work to try to have it fun for you to come home to. And you did not come into the house with tambourines, and you did not sing my praises, and you did not even say, how did you know to make my favorite dinner? And you didn't notice
you did not
that I had vacuumed even the stairs.
It's so good.
So if you try to do this, just resolve that you're not going to be a time bomb.
I like to just add in there that the way we know this so well is that we've been alive for some time. I think we've been married. We've both gone through this routine. That's how we would know about this. So.
Yeah, because the other thing that can go wrong is the you have expectations that then didn't go that particular way, and so then you feel affronted.
Yeah, no, and that's what I meant.
Didn't go the way you imagined.
That ties in with what we were saying about Sabbath, about give freely. Like when you give without strings. Like when you make your husband's favorite dinner, make him his favorite dinner just because you can bless him that way, and not because you're expecting some kind of
payback.
And also, I got you a gift card for new clothing.
Yeah, because the thing is often we have a sort of like a hidden price tag that we assume that they will intuit
their work,
and they will know how to pay off this debt.
Yeah, and, or you're like, I'll have my house be super calm, and I'll be like, no drama, and then your husband's like, sweet, I can watch that baseball game,
and then you're like,
what? How dare you think that because there was nothing going wrong that meant that you were not needed? 100%.
Oh, it's so good.
Men and women are just actually not the same. So one thing that I think is important to just mention in this discussion, when I said burn your own bridges, I'm talking about be merciless fighting your own sin. Like, when you know that there is sin in your heart about certain things. Like I think we've talked about this in the podcast before. If you know that you have claimed to have a headache at times when you actually just didn't feel like doing what you needed to do, tell on yourself.
Yes.
Like, get it right, repent of it, and do war with yourself. Because that is a thing that is like, That's a thing, because you think if you actually mean to be killing sin, who is it? John Owen, who kill says, sin or it will be killing you.
It will be killing you. And he describes it too as like, you keep your foot on its throat until it stops twitching.
Yeah, he's like real hardcore.
Do not let it up.
But I was gonna say, if you think about it, that sin, that like crouching at the door, that like sin is a murderous person. It's not a person, but coming for you. You don't be like, well, I'm gonna let you off with a warning.
Well,
and if you come hide behind the door with a machete to kill me tomorrow, then I'm gonna give you another warning.
I have another metaphor, which is that I am sorry to report, just have had a mouse in our kitchen.
This affirms my theory that mice are always the cherry on top of spiritual growth.
Oh my gosh,
the Lord sends a mouse when he's wanting to drive a point home. It is his exclamation point.
And the thing that was insulting about this mouse is that my kitchen, everyone, it's torn to blazes. Like, I have exposed rafters, and it's a mess, and there's no cupboards or drawers to speak of, so it's all very helter-skelter in there right now. And what do I decide to do but rearrange it? Because I'm like, there's an excuse for it being a mess, but there's not an excuse for it being a completely debauched mess. So I'm going to just pull everything out and really just take some ownership here. Even though there's not cupboards, I'm going to get it organized and everything. I start this right at the moment where the mouse comes through. And you're like, really? Because now I have to wash every single dish and utensil that might be anywhere. Well, we're going to
need to get a great sterilizing hose.
Yeah. And then we're going to have to put traps everywhere. And the thing is we did catch it. We caught one. And I hope it's just one, but we caught one.
But if it's gone on more than like a day, it's probably 7.
Yeah. But the thing is, this mouse was teeny weeny that we caught. A little tiny mouse. Oh. And what I'm trying to say here is about the sin.
I think it got a baby.
It might have. Oh, well, we'll hope not. That would be bad. It was small. It was like, this big. Anyway, so the point is that if you, like me, have a mouse in your kitchen somewhere.
Doesn't take much.
It's not like you would say, but it's a little mouse. It's a tiny baby mouse. So I'm not too worried because it's just a small guy. Like, if it got to be raccoon-sized.
And then when you get right down to it, mouse poop is also small. Yeah. But boy, does it
ruin your day.
Does it get you down?
Yeah, and so it's like, it's not like you would say, once this thing becomes the size of a badger, then I'll
start working on it then.
No, we all know that you would rally it up and fix the problem with the tiny mouse. Even if it's tiny, it can do a lot of,
and I think that
devious things.
A certain amount of seriousness in the battle with your own flesh. Like, sometimes it requires sort of merciless tactics. Like not having mercy on your future self that might want to get away with a headache claim again.
Yeah, and you might be
say, no, I hate that sin.
I might not have had a headache, but I kind of had a spiritual headache, and I really wasn't up for it.
Basically, it was the same thing.
So, it was a tiny mouse, what I did wrong there.
I'm like, always out yourself. Always say, you know what, I think I was being a loser.
It is true that tiny mice, they don't limit their devastation area.
No, they do enough.
And they grow large families. And they burrow into your bread bags.
It is always like a spiritual exclamation point. I think.
It's true.
The Lord telling us to mortify the flesh. Exclamation point. Like, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. And a mouse! For good measure.
Or a bird above your head.
Or a bird.
Throwing a dead moth at you.
Or any number of things, like the wrong Celine Dion soundtrack mix.
We should wrap this up.
Do you have a tip?
Gosh, these come
I have a random tip.
Give me a tip.
My random tip was, I did it this Sabbath, and it is, I can't say it's real fancy but I did it, which is writing people's names up on the top edge of their plate.
That was clever.
With a dry erase marker, which I did so that I could know that I had a plate for everyone. It turns out that the seating arrangement is quite difficult when it is multi-staging ages and things.
No,
and I just wrote on all the plates with a dry erase marker. works quite well.
It's good.
Just
and name
wipes
tags
off.
in general, if you're hosting a large group, it does save you some. I mean, it's a headache in advance, but if you just leave people to their own devices,
No, it's worse.
It's bad.
Worse.
It actually,
because then you end up separating married couples, and then you end up with a person who shouldn't be isolated gets to be the one that gets somehow stuffed off with some teens or middle schoolers, and you're like, hang on, how did that happen? Let's change this.
Yeah, it's awkward. But then you can't change it without kicking somebody out.
Outside is really a poor choice. At least here, it's pretty. There's often wind, so like little place cards wouldn't work outside. So
yeah, I have a recommend, which is random, and everyone knows it already. But Cook's Illustrated magazine.
Oh, it's good.
Is like if you're somebody who's trying to. Like
empowering,
actually learn how to do things the right way. I really love reading the articles in Cook's Illustrated. Currently, I will confess, I have a subscription, and I have not had even time to really read through them. So I have kind of a stack there.
It's like it's continuing ed.
You're
like, and you read through the things they did that they found didn't work and what did work. It's like it just helps you get a jump start.
They try to isolate all the variables in a mashed potato. How did you boil it with a lid, without a lid, peeled, unpeeled, what kind of potatoes, cold water, or drop them into boiling water? You know, like they'll just.
I feel like some of my best, like, rules of thumb have come from that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you're like, mashed potatoes reheat really well if they have enough fat. Right. And probably not butter as the dominant one.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, it's just helpful in the future.
And it's fun because, like, you can decide, okay, I think I will try to learn to cook ribs or something. And they'll walk you through what kind of cut and how should you do it. And, you know, like.
Mid-oven fries.
Oven
fries
do you
from them was really, really good.
Yeah, their smashed potato recipe I got years and years and years ago. And it's still the best. And so it's just like if you're trying to actually get...
grow
better at it.
Keep
instead of just sticking with your same old
But it's also
recipes.
good. It's also good if there's something like we said earlier, trying to learn to make food that your husband loves or something. If there is something that he loves and you're like, I should learn to do that because I'm not comfortable at all with that. I don't know how to do that. This is a great place to start because you actually get a little jump start, like lesson plan. This is what we're doing.
And this is one thing that I'll tell you.
I like the cookbook from them. The best recipe. It's one of the classic cookbooks I use. Yeah.
Do they walk through all of those things in okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't have that cookbook, but I do have a subscription and it is fun and it's just fun to sit down with and like learn about something.
Plus it inspires you to try things that like that continuing ed thing.
Yeah.
Keeps you interested in learning and driving towards something that you want to be better at.
Yeah,
and you don't get like that stagnant feeling.
And I do like
okay, I've mastered my 4 casseroles.
Right.
Now I just have to make these forever.
Yeah, and
I can get out. That would get me down.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
it's true. But I also think it's fun even to do things that you thought you knew how to do and just try it different and see what a difference that makes. And so anyway, I think that's...
We have a standby banana bread recipe from Best Recipe that we love. It's like my favorite banana bread. Okay. Really good. And it has like yogurt, or I sometimes we use buttermilk instead in it. But it's one that doesn't end up being heavy and greasy, and it's just like a really delicious banana bread. And we've made that one for a long time. But we recently tried the King Arthur recipe of the year that was like a whole grain banana bread, because we're like, even though we have one we like, we tried it and then we were like, no, it's good, but it's good to try.
Yeah.
Good.
I am a believer in that. Like, just always be trying to get better.
Yep.
All right, that's it.
Yes, bless your week with no mice.
No mice.
Hopefully, unless
no
you
birds,
need it for
no
a spiritual
moths.
point.
Yeah, I'm hopefully almost through mine, but anyway.
Yeah, well, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Next time.
Bye.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about, because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm.
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
To learn more, visit us online at nsa.edu.